Hi, folks. This might be the amount of crowd we might get. I know we're kind of like right before lunch today, too, so we want to make sure we get you guys out of here on time for lunch. So perhaps, we're going to get started and then, just let folks start to come back in. Thank you so much for coming to this session. My name is Mary Kwan. I'm from HP, and we're very honored today to have one of our customer, InkaBinka, being able here to present their experience in using our HP Moonshot environment as part of their live production environment. So without further ado, let me kind of walk through our agenda for today. So basically, I'm going to give you a really quick overview about what HP Moonshot is. Hopefully, you heard some from the keynote earlier already. And we're definitely around today and tomorrow, too, out in the hallway area if you want to learn more. And then I'm going to hand it over to Chris to talk about InkaBinka. All right, so HP Moonshot. So basically, from our keynote earlier today, from Don Wei, who is our HP fellow, he had talked about, the growing challenge of all this data and devices and Internet of Things and collecting information. Well, in order to kind of, be able to handle that kind of information, it's all about the infrastructure in the back end to be able to process the information. Obviously, you can add more servers in your environment every day, but what we have engineered and designed with the HP Moonshot technology is really a way to optimize your density as well as workload based on how you run businesses. So from a business standpoint, it's all about how we can help customers reducing the amount of power they use as well as the amount of space that they need in order to support those infrastructures. And to kind of give you an example, this is actually in the stack that InkaBinka is using today, using NGINX Plus, as well as Node.js, as well as Couchbase. So, this is really about, InkaBinka being able to achieve performance as well as cost saving as a result of using our environment. So again, it's all about, fast performance. In fact, the CEO of InkaBinka is really impressed with the performance of our Moonshot environment compared to what's out there in the industry. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Chris from InkaBinka to talk about their experience. And thank you, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Let's see if we can get this wired up all right. Must be some stiff competition in the other sessions here, but I like to prefer the intimate discussion anyway. So it's truly an honor. I'll try to talk while I get this. It's really great to just be here, be a part of NGINX. Thank you, HP, and kind of just what's going on. It's really exciting. The keynote this morning really inspired me, and we're doing some really important work today as it relates to the web. So my name's Chris. I'm co-founder of InkaBinka. Inka what? So what is an InkaBinka? We have an app. We have a website, we have an iOS app, and we have an Android app. And essentially what our claim to fame is we can take those 1,000-word, 1,500-word news articles and break it into 4 bullet points. So it takes about 20 seconds to get through a news story, which is kind of pretty great for a guy like me. I've got a family, kids. I'm always on the go. I think some of you guys can relate. Things are happening quicker, faster. We don't have a ton of time to sit down and read the newspaper anymore as much as we'd like to, just not the reality. So our technology, there's a ton on the back end. I'm going to focus more on kind of how we deliver the front end today. But it's a lot of web scraping, natural language processing, some off-the-shelf stuff, a lot of stuff we've written ourselves. And right now what we're trying to do, we're early. We've been in business for a year. This is the 3rd major iteration of the product that we feel like is finally sort of the one we're really going to blast out the doors with. But we've been focusing on quality of user before quantity. And what I mean by that, in our industry, everything's about retention, and are people not just signing up and have another name in the database, but are they coming back, and are they getting value out of what it is that you're delivering? And so we've been able to humbly enjoy 3 times industry average retention, which for a media site is around 11%. So when we talk about retention, we're talking about that daily, meaning if I have 100 people in my database, on average, 11 of them should come back on any given day. So we're getting 20 and 30% retention. That's a daily number that so we feel like we've sort of tweaked in kind of what people want to see. That the app is still new, there's bugs. Yeah, I'm sure if you guys download it, I appreciate that. Let me know what's bad about it. I already know all the good stuff and the things I like about it. But help me flush out the bugs. It's still early. So, but beyond that, we're sort of gearing up right now for a big advertising push and really start to get the quantity number now that we've got the quality that we're looking for. Currently top 100 news apps in 21 countries. So that's been like bizarre to see. Like, we're nobody. Like, how did these people find us? And see, we're getting the right traction. HP is a big part of that, and doing things like this. So, a little bit about me. I jumped in the web right as it was getting sort of popular for like public domain, right at 1994. That's what I look like. I don't know if you see the difference at all. This is before browser compatibility and problems. This is not the male pattern baldness. This is just strictly stuff we have to deal with as web developers. I know you guys, a few of you know what I'm talking about. I've worked all kinds of different jobs, from startups to big companies, building applications everywhere I went. So I've seen a lot of different problems and scenarios. And for me, I've always loved the web. I love it as a delivery platform. Now with mobile and mobile web and stuff, that's where we're obviously trying to take it. Performance, I'm a huge performance junkie. I mean, I think we all are nowadays, especially kind of what I mentioned with, we don't have a ton of time, things just need to be fast, and things can always be made faster. Business intelligence too, so I have a big analytics background too. So what's great is the app is telling me all kinds of things about what my users are doing, and we're able to measure and track so we can actually figure out what it is we want to tweak. And actually, the stack that I'm going to talk about today is relatively new to me. And I've been a Microsoft guy, pretty much my whole career, up until about a year ago. And this has nothing to do with, which one's better or anything. I'm definitely like, best tool for the job. And so when I started getting into, the Node and the JavaScript world and the front-end frameworks that are there, it just kind of made sense. So that's actually just a Halloween costume. I'm sure you guys. Anyway, Halloween's coming up, so. So starting at the bottom, in terms of our stack, I actually was seeking out a caching layer to put on top of MS SQL, and ran into a lot of Mcached type of stuff, and ended up finding out that Memcached and CouchDB, which is a NoSQL document database, they had a baby and they called it Couchbase. And essentially the thing runs in RAM and it persists to disk. Just ran across Aerospike out there. That's pretty cool stuff. When I read it, it was like, wow, there's other people catching on to this thing. So it's a really neat way of storing. The NoSQL world, I don't know, how many of you guys are doing NoSQL? All right, most of you guys, that's cool. Coming from the traditional SQL background is obviously a big paradigm shift, but I've absolutely loved Couchbase and what it's given us. From the outset of like when we started InkaBinka, we just said, look, let's just assume we're going to be successful. The odds are stacked against us just like everybody else, but the big problem that I see in all this sort of experience in building applications is that no one thinks about the performance and stuff until it's, you're really kind of stuck. So, and then you read the things like, well, performance is a feature and you got to bake it in. I kind of go way more on the paranoia side, and what's the worst possible thing that can happen for me right now? I get written up in TechCrunch, which is an awesome thing, but how my brain works is, can I support that? What are we going to like die a miserable death and have to put up the, the Twitter, all the birds holding up the whale kind of thing? I definitely don't want to do that, nor do I have a clever page built if that were to happen. So kind of from the outset, we just wanted to go like, all right, let's stand on the shoulders of giants. Who's using this stuff? I saw that Zynga used it for Farmville. I'm like, great, check that box, right? We're not quite Farmville yet, but still holding out hope. What else? So right now we're running 3 nodes. 3 separate physically servers with 1 replica copy, and Couchbase will take your data and essentially divide it by 3 and leave a replica copy on the other nodes. If a node goes down, the replica on the other node activates, and it's 0 downtime. We've actually tested it both intentionally and unintentionally several times now. Works fantastically. We've enjoyed 0 downtime as it relates to Couchbase, which is obviously great. Really nice interface. And we're using cross data center replication to replicate to the cloud, which is kind of our backup. So whenever we start wrenching on the hardware side of things, I just divert with DNS to the cloud, and it's kind of like none the wiser. So it's been pretty cool mechanically at the base transaction level to run Couchbase. API is Node.js. I'm also new to this as well. The whole JavaScript, and I don't count jQuery to really mean you're a hardcore JavaScript developer. I didn't consider myself that. Seeing what people are doing in the callback world, it's like, wow, okay, so there's some really amazing things. Who here is using Node? A few of you, okay. So essentially, this is the sort of gatekeeper, like any traditional API. By the way, none of this stuff is like really rocket surgery. It's a fairly simple stack in terms of front-end stuff, so I'm not pretending like I'm teaching you stuff here, just kind of explaining exactly what it is that we've put together. But for us, Node has been great. The whole event-driven model where, again, speaking of that paranoia thing, I want to know that if, I get a flood of requests, like they're going to be handled and people aren't going to be waiting. And so with that, I do things in 3 as a starting point, and then we measure, and then we add nodes there. I'm still running on the first 3. 3 servers, 4 procs. So with cluster, you can cluster across. So Node is single-threaded, and so if you have a multiple core processor and you don't cluster it, you're really not taking advantage of those other, in our case, 3 cores. So we basically fork it, and so I have 12 Node listeners, which is actually a huge number when you start to compare things like LinkedIn. They went from 30 servers down to 3, and I'm not sure exactly how many listeners they have, but I wanted to purposely overbuild this just to make sure that we're going to support all the efforts going forward. Right now, also with a lot of back-end tuning and kind of getting data sort of put in a way where I know it's going to be quicker for the user. We're getting 10, 20 millisecond queries, and some of them are sub 10, but I didn't want to publish that in case someone made me prove it. Then I would run a demo and it would be 10, but still pretty fast. So when the app loads, it calls for data, hits the API, and it gets the stories for that specific device size. Every image that comes across, I pre-process 74 different versions of every single image, and they're tailored toward the most popular device sizes. And in the background, I've got this thing that's counting every actual device size that we're seeing, and sort of the big ones go to the top, and then we add that to the master list to be processed, and then those users get images that are just that much better processed for them. So all that's happening in our API layer. And of course, in the front end, NGINX, and specifically NGINX Plus. I didn't know what NGINX Plus was. I kept, actually, the first call I had with HP, we're doing this another webinar, and I kept saying NGINX Plus. That's not even a thing. Like you gotta take that off. And it wasn't until I met Paul at HP Discover, and he's like, yeah, you should be on this product. It's like, really, what does it do? So we've really enjoyed all of the Plus advantages with the Plus product, the purchase product. It's ridiculously cheap for what you get. The free version, that's kind of like where everyone starts, and you get all the great directives, and you can get things up and running really quickly. Again, this is new to me too, so not a testament to like how smart or clever I am. I think just how people are making things where you can spin up things really quickly. And now we're starting to get into the world of the tuning, which, as was mentioned in today's keynote, you got to be careful. It's like everyone just takes the defaults, and so now we're circling back through and really starting to custom tune it. But essentially running it on Ubuntu 14.04. We have 3 web servers that are serving my static content. So InkaBinka is primarily a mobile app, but we do have a website. And it's right now, given our size, I'm essentially the primary engineer. I've built 95% of what you see. We have a site that basically encapsulates the code that is mobile web, and then we wrap that, put it on Android, wrap it, put it on iOS. So we do have a web presence. So I have NGINX set up as just a basically static file web serving. 3 that are load balanced from 2 load balancers in front of that. So what I've done too is, as Mary pointed out, we're running on the Moonshot hardware, which is amazing. And so that lets me kind of slice and dice. So the cartridges that I have are 8 cores, 32 gigs of RAM, and I have 45 of them. And I have 2 of those, so 2 chassis. The other one isn't quite as filled out. So for each kind of big important thing, I went sort of bare metal. So the load balancers, I took all 8 cores, 32 gigs of RAM, call that, run it right on the bare metal. But Moonshot, you can completely virtualize this stuff too. So for the web serving, that's kind of overkill, and I'm kind of going back against what I said on the paranoia thing. But what I did is I took cartridges and I split them in half, and I said, okay, cartridge number 8 is going to be, half of it's going to be Web 1, the other half's going to be API 1. Next cartridge over, you know, same thing, times 3. So all together, I'll just get to the picture. You know, here's what it looks like. It's pretty basic, pretty simple, like I said. This isn't the exact, you know, physical structure, but you guys get the idea. So anybody coming to the www property will come through. NGINX will load balance it and serve the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Once that loads, it makes calls to the API. API is what communicates to Couchbase, right? And if you have the app, you already have all the assets loaded. So this whole thing doesn't even get hit at all. So you've already got the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS loaded, so it's just making API calls. And right now, the needle, so we started with the web, and then we launched the iOS app, and then we launched the Android app. But now it's 90% mobile, so which is the goal. That's kind of how we started off with, but we ended up getting the site up first. So let's see, let me go back a slide. Some of the things that we really like about the Plus product, and just NGINX in general, just the event-driven. Node.js is that way, where it's not thread-bound, so it's not, you know, just throw more hardware. Obviously, at some point it is, but we have been hard-pressed to move the needle off of 1% CPU, 1 or 2 CPU. It's amazing how quickly it takes requests and just, you know, offloads it to whatever it needs to do, whether it's served from that exact server or to what's called an upstream, if you guys are familiar with the load balancing. Super fast at static page serving, which is great, so the site comes up really, really quickly. Probably the thing that I like the best about NGINX Plus is the on-the-fly reconfig. So it used to be, okay, gear up. We're going to make a config change. Let's take the nodes out of the cluster and start-stop service and go quickly before anybody notices. And by the way, you're doing it at like 3 a.m. because we've got traffic at 24 hours a day. So now, as we're kind of tweaking how everything really is laying out, we can make these changes, add a node to the whatever cluster it is, the web, API, Couchbase. And actually, Couchbase isn't being load balanced by NGINX, but the web and API are. And it's just a breeze. It's like kind of one of those sleep at night things where if there's a config change I need to make, I can do it, and there's just no downtime. And it works. And again, we've tested it both intentionally and unintentionally several times now. Other things like live activity monitoring, that's pretty cool to see. When you expect, back to kind of the analytics that I was talking about, we're measuring all this stuff, and that I am actually dumping into a SQL database because it's more of relational data that I want to process. But to kind of compare what I'm seeing there to what's literally happening on the site, just as a gut check, and just to make sure everybody's happy as it relates to performance. The proactive health check is fantastic. gzip compression is a no-brainer, but you got to put it on the list. Most everyone does that nowadays. But eventually, we're getting into video, and we understand that some of the recent updates with NGINX is targeted at some video capability. So we're really excited about that. Also, some of the HP cartridges are geared toward that as well. So let me talk a little bit about Moonshot. So like most startups, you start in the cloud because it makes sense. And as we started growing, the cloud's great, and it actually blows my mind that just how it works and that it works. Costco-sized data warehouse, and my data's all over, but it somehow still works, is mind-boggling to me. But so we started there. And as we started scaling and adding more Couchbase nodes, we started to run into some latency issues. And the cloud is fantastic at scaling, and I can quickly spin up an instance, but you kind of trade off some SLAs when it comes to reliable latency. And so the way it was presenting was, I get these alert, node 2 is down. It's like, oh shit, go log in. Oh, it's not down. It just had a hiccup in the replication in the sync, especially when we started replicating. It really started throwing a lot of errors. So at that same time, HP, through a couple contacts of our CEO, Kevin, we had a call. HP saw what we were doing with InkaBinka. They loved it and started telling us about Moonshot, which at that point we hadn't heard of. This is January of this year, and so the actual production units weren't even really ready. So we received the very first Moonshot in the US that I'm aware of that's in production. But it looks like that. You guys can see it out at the table there. These are all servers, each one of these. So when I talk about 45, all these little apartments here are an 8-core, 32 gigs of RAM server. And there's all different kinds of cartridges we could put in there. We happen to use all of the M300s, which is what I mentioned. Down the middle, the 2 switches. Off the back, 5 fans, 4 power supplies. And then the one thing that people don't, that's all great. Everybody's, the power consumption, all that stuff. But for me, it's like, and I'm not like a NOC guy, but like wiring. Just wiring up 45 servers. That's just a big mess waiting to happen. So a lot of benefits come out of sort of taking an entire rack worth of stuff and cramming it into 4.3U. And right now we have 2 of these running. We're hoping to expand that as our user base grows. And we've had 0 problems, actually 0. In fact, part of the reason why I keep adding more than I probably need, or certainly won't for a little while, is that it's brand new. It's brand new tech. It's going to break. One of my cartridges is going to die on me, right? It just happens. Well, it hasn't happened yet, and so that's been probably one of the most impressive things. The things coming off the line, they're rock solid. HP did a fantastic job, and I think this is the way that a lot of not just web properties, but just apps and data in general, they want to scale that way by it's the horizontal scale. Instead of just throw a bigger, badder, back in the SQL Server, kind of realm, you got to get a much more powerful server. And here, I just add a node to the cluster. A lot more things are just built that way now. So this was perfect for me. The other crazy thing that when they told me about Moonshot, it's like, yeah, this is all great, but it's probably $1 million or something. So it turned out that how much cloud we're using, a lot of it's our back end, right? All the image processing and scraping and natural language stuff. But 4 months was the ROI that I got on that entire box. So, you talk about when you're purchasing hardware, IT managers, maybe some of you guys are talking about, okay, years starting to get pretty good. 2, all right, then 3 is kind of doesn't make sense because of end of life type of stuff. But 4 months it's kind of ridiculous. I described it one time, it's like fiscally irresponsible to not sort of go this route. And you get all the benefits. I have complete control. I'm not competing with any other tenants. And all that backplane stuff, it's ridiculously fast. It's complete control. It's like cloud in a box is what I call it as well. We've had 0 downtime. You can totally virtualize them. They're just like another server. There's really nothing different about it as it presents. You can load whatever OS you want. And the list of supported OS is increasing. I mean, Windows 2012, if you want to run that. All types of flavors of Linux, all the popular ones. So what can this thing really do? And I'm not even using all of it right now. I'm probably using about half of it. So in trying to figure out, how many users can we support so that I can sleep at night, it's actually a very hard thing to measure. Just to even simulate, right? It takes a ton of bandwidth. It takes a ton of compute to just generate those threads, to simulate them, by the way, concurrently. So what we came up with was knowing that 90% of our traffic is essentially just the API call. The main call that gets run over and over and over is go get stories for today. And as you start paging, it basically calls that with a page number. So it's a fairly simple thing from an API's perspective to test. So what we came up with is, all right, how many people within the same second can hit that API and get all the stories loaded under a second? Just as a, that sounds good to me, sort of one of these guys. And we ran out of, we actually have to spin up some more instances, not here, but test clients and bandwidth. But we started peaking out at 6,500. So what I ran backwards, this doesn't mean that I can only support 6,500. We have far more users than that. but concurrent during the same second. So what I did, go back into SQL and figure out, okay, how many people out of the tens of thousands that we have now, approaching 100,000, have been on in the same second, right? What's the highest? What's our most trafficy second, if that makes sense? But so you take that number, do some quick math, and that for us extrapolates to like 5.5 million users. So it kind of is a testament to, well, a lot of things, but the fact that this stuff can serve it so quickly, the stack, the software is the frameworks that we've chosen and dialed in. Like I couldn't be happier with the whole setup. And if I had to do it all over again, I would absolutely do it. One other way I'm cheating is, in a good way, maybe cleverly, is that I use HP's CDN for all my images. So all that's coming across my wire in my data center is JSON. So it's and HTML and it's text. So all the images get edge served. So if someone in Germany pulls up the news, it happens every day. If they're the first person that pulls that image, it copies across. You guys know how CDN works. Leaves a copy. The next person around that hub, they're pulling the image from Germany instead of Marina del Rey, which is Southern California. That's where we're based, by the way. So what's next for us? We're working on an enterprise version, actually with HP, a sales enablement platform. They saw how we're delivering news in this format, and they said, wow, our mobile sales force could really benefit from this. We're sending them 38-page white papers on the next server, whatever network switch that we want them to sell. Maybe some of them are reading it, but if we're honest, right, they want it netted out, just like we want our news, just like we want most of our information these days. And so it was a pretty natural fit given the strength of the relationship. So we're working on that actively right now. We're hoping to debut something in Barcelona at their Discover event in December, which is exciting. A lot of user customizations right now. I'm refactoring a lot of how data is loading, a lot more asynchronously versus every time you pull it up, it has to go load again. So doing things a little bit more cleverly. And with that, I mean, the ultimate goal is, hey, you point it at whatever sources you want. And Reddit, TechCrunch, whether you're liberal, conservative, whatever news, point out what you want, it'll summarize it. It is not 100% automated right now. That's obviously a huge computer science problem that people way smarter than me have been working on for years. But we've gotten ours pretty interestingly dialed in for news, and it works pretty well. We do have an editor put eyes on for cleaning up some of the typos, bullets, things like that, selecting images. So we're working on further automating it. And once we get to, the magic number seems to be 1 million users, which is the elusive number for the startup app. Especially today, it's pretty crowded to get money, and a lot of VCs are getting hit up. So you kind of have to really stand out. So we have trajectory to that. We just have to keep the advertising money keep flowing, and raise Series A, hire a team. I can get some help, and that's InkaBinka. Thank you guys for listening. You guys, questions? Yeah.
Which bottleneck were you encountering for the 6,500 per second? Was that a network?
No, it was all on the client side. It was just trying to get through.
That's what I mean by network. If the clients are trying to get, so you have this 45 cartridge host environment that has a fast backplane, which I imagine is faster than
Oh yeah.
like 10 gig or something.
Oh no, it's way. It's like yeah.
On gig E's going in.
Right.
And so it's really that bottleneck. So you can have compute left on the table essentially.
Yeah.
For the current use case.
Yeah. No, I'm actually talking about the test clients outside of.
So you didn't even saturate your
Correct.
Your moonshot.
Correct. Yeah.
You could spin up in a place.
That's why. And once we hit 6,500, it's like, and we're so small, it's like, okay, good. We're good. Like I can.
Over your 5 million virtual.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, so I don't know what the real limit is. I wish I knew, but it's like, all right, I have sort of a big backlog of features and things to get to. It's just sort of hashtag startup life, but.
You're using a fraction right now of capacity. There might be some very scalability within that compute.
Yeah.
And then going to a second moonshot and NGINX cluster.
Absolutely, that's the plan. That's the game. Actually, probably a separate data center would be probably our next thing. We have so much capacity with what we have there. But we're just talking details at that point. What was I going to say? Oh, so we're monitoring all this stuff, obviously. So as soon as the needle starts going, we can actually see and we can figure out. So if it's just API, I can just allocate another cartridge, load the API. It's done. It's in. I mean, it's a 5-minute maybe process, And same thing with couch. I mean, you know how, of all people here, probably the best with Aerospike. Yeah, spin up a node, add it to the cluster, and now you're that much bigger, that much faster, more throughput. So, good question. Anything else? Yeah.
Do you have spare cards not being used, or do you add cards?
Yeah. So in our the first chassis we just got it with 15 cards in there. That was sort of their starter kit. And now that's our dev environment. So you can purchase a Moonshot. I think they have this as a package where you can buy the chassis, which obviously the chassis is one size. It's ready to accept 45 cartridges. But you can put however many you want in there. Got to get the dual switches. You don't have to, but you probably should, right, to get all the redundancy. For our production box, it is fully loaded, but we actually have, those things are just spun down. So they're not even on. And it's all software based, so it's like if I needed to allocate something, I basically light it up, load whatever image, update it to the latest software, and then tell whatever clustering, whether it's NGINX or Couchbase, that, hey, there's someone else to help with the workload. So yeah, all the slots don't have to be filled, I think was your question. Oh, yeah. No, so yeah, I've got, yeah, I'm like using maybe these. So all these guys are just sitting there. They're turned off, so they're not taking out power, but I can light them up. So yeah, spare capacity that way. Plus plenty of headroom right now and just what I have now, so. Oh, that's another good, yeah. So I don't know if you guys heard VJ, but all these things, you get, basically go to the end of the hallway here. You can actually see one, and you can see they all just flip up, pop right out. It's blades on steroids, basically. It's pretty amazing, and we've hot swapped it before in dev, and it worked. So that was good. All right, if there's no other questions, thanks a lot. Mary, did you want to wrap up with anything, or stop by the HP table? Cover that? Learn more?
Yeah, we're out there in the hallway if you want to really see.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah.